You're listening to the Undisputed Wrestling Show on the Angry Marks Podcast Network, featuring the bearded wonder Zane Paisley, Sign Guy, Drew Skills, and the Morning Star, William Huckabee.
The Undisputed Wrestling Show starts now. Welcome to the Undisputed Wrestling Show here on the Angry Marks Podcast Network. I am one of your co-hosts, Sign Guy. I am joined by the Morning Star, Will Huckabee, this week. Will, how's your evening going?
Everything's going good, man. I'm really excited for the tonight's show and stuff, man. I think we have a bunch of two really great guests our listeners and fans are going to enjoy.
Absolutely. To kick things off here in the first hour, we have with us right now someone that you might know from the Crockett Promotions from WTBS. You might be familiar with him with his work on the Global Wrestling Federation that was on ESPN. If you're a very dedicated fan of Japanese wrestling, you will definitely remember him from All Japan Pro Wrestling. We have with us the Outlaw, Joel Deaton. Mr. Deaton, welcome to the show. Thank you for taking time out of your Tuesday to be with us.
Hey, well, that's cool, man. You know, I'm glad to be able to do them. I do them from time to time, not all the time, but, you know, from time to time, and I enjoy them, and, you know, I get a little information out there, and, you know, the good wrestling fans or even non-wrestling fans, that, you know, so they can critique it or whatever, but for the most part, these things, these are pretty good things, and I enjoy doing them. But I'm fine, you know, I'm down here in Georgia, and, y'all left out a couple of, see, so much people don't know, really. You know, I worked, like 9 legit territories before I ever went to Crockett. You know, I worked Puerto Rico, worked, Florida, worked Continental, through there with the Fullers. I worked for Watts. I worked for Leroy McGuirk out in Oklahoma. First real job outside of Lars Anderson, who trained me. I worked out there for Joe Blanchard, Southwest Texas. Tully's dad, Wahoo McDaniels, was a booker. And, you know, just worked away, worked around the territories. I broke in 77, and then I went up to Charlotte in 83. You know, that's, I stayed there 5 years until I got my Japan deal. But go ahead. Yeah, just a little, you know, background. So I throw in there.
Absolutely. We love to get some background on our guests. Now, like you said, you came up in the territorial days of wrestling where there were over a dozen full-time wrestling territories where you could make a full-time living. When you were breaking into professional wrestling, did you have any particular goal as far as what promotion you most wanted to work at the time? Did you have goals of Japan or Mexico, anything like that, when you first broke into the business?
Well, you know what, man? To tell you the truth, I never really kept up with wrestling. That I remember, you know, when I was, you know, 8, 9, 10, in my teens and all, you know, I played baseball and football and a little basketball too, but and I always excelled in those sports very good. My father was a professional football player. He played for the Detroit Lions for about 3 years, I think, before he got hurt. And he was an All-American at South Carolina. And I don't know, I guess athletics was kind of in my genes. I love to play about anything. But anyway, so I was working in this I had a double scholarship to Ole Miss in football and baseball. Okay. And, so after about a year, I got my girlfriend pregnant and, you know, I had to get a job. And, so I moved back to Atlanta and, I went to work in a health spa. Anyway, Lars Anderson came in and he had just split off from Ole there in Georgia Championship, which I found out later they never did get along, but, you know, Lars is originator of that whole thing, but my first real memory of wrestling is, I guess, when I was no, maybe 13 or 14, watching that bull out on, eating a raw fish out there on the Georgia Championship Wrestling. And so, as far as pro wrestling and even amateur, I never amateur wrestled in high school or anything. But anyway, Lars kind of recruited me out of, that gym because he was starting a new promotion and wanting to train guys. And so that's, what was the rest of the question?
I just wonder if you had any goals as far as getting into any specific territory or any specific country when you were starting out?
Okay, well, I was a complete mark. I didn't even know about territories. I didn't know about, all I knew was I was good at about anything I ever tried to do sports-wise. And wrestling, when Lars brought us in, all we did every single day for 4 or 5 days a week was get in the ring and amateur wrestle. Lars was a big amateur wrestler out of South St. Cloud, Minnesota up there, and with Ole, and Ole was younger, but before he ever even taught us to lock up, he was like 2.5, 3 months, but and he used to bring guys in Junior Olympics, and I had no idea who they were, and it just, and so I learned, I not knowing anything about amateur, I could still hold my own because I was, 20 years old and in good shape, but so, I didn't know. I was just right. I was saying, I was looking at it like it was a sport, like I did baseball or football. I wanted to try to do my best, and it's kind of an athletic thing. So okay, let me see if I can learn this. And, and once we got, I got a little further, into the training and started paying more attention to the wrestling on, Georgia Championship Wrestling and this, and then, I could see my potential, possible potential in doing, fairly well in it. And so I looked at it like a competition. And so, we stayed with Lars about a year, and, his sponsorships kind of ran out. And, we did some tours down in the Virgin Islands, West Indies, Barbados, Trinidad. And then I'd hook up with Lars later on again one time, but then we left and went over to Georgia Championship from there. But, at that time, it was just get better and learn. I didn't have an ego as far as, or a goal as far as trying to reach it. I wanted to see how good I could get at it before I decided on anything like that. If that answers your question.
It does. You talked about wrestling down in places like Trinidad and Barbados and in the Caribbean. The fans there have always been very, very rabid. To this day, it's kind of a dangerous place for wrestlers because the fans are known to take things extremely personal down there. Did you have any personal run-ins with the fans when you were in the Caribbean, like in places like Trinidad and Puerto Rico, places like that?
Well, back when we went, that had to be 1978. Okay, now the television stations down there only had 3 hours of TV each day. That they had something on the TV after whatever it was on there, it played for 3 hours. Then that's it, And so Lars got our tapes put on one of those hours, once a week for 8 weeks before we came in down there. But I don't know, I'd say we did St. John's, St. Vincent, and then went to Antigua, and it was like, they never saw nothing like that. They didn't know really how to it was new to them, but they were interested, and we drew. But I remember in Antigua, there was a guy, Charles Buffon. I don't know if you remember him. You could liken him to Rocky Johnson's look, not The Rock, but his dad, Rocky Johnson, back in his day. That's kind of what Charles looked like. And Charles was from Antigua. And so he was a big hero down there. And so we was out in some field, soccer field, I don't know, man, but there was folks hanging out of the trees and they had armed guards. So anyway, we were supposed to do some we were the heels. We were supposed to, me and my, wrestling brother, David Hoss, we were supposed to run out and, beat Charles up and lay. And so the guards, they stepped in front of us with them guns, wouldn't let us out the door, So needless to say, we didn't make it out the door, but other than that, the fans, they weren't violent or as far as down at that time in those areas. Now I can't say what they're like now, but I know back then, we're talking the late 70s. And then when I went to Puerto Rico in 81, it seems like, now they'd throw spark plugs and bring slingshots and shoot ball bearings and they didn't even have ringside. They had like a 10 foot fence, all the way around the bleacher section and for about 50 feet all the way around the ring, there wasn't no chairs. So, they were brutal.
And you also in your career have, worked under a mask, I know. And when you were wrestling under a mask, was there a different mindset for you going into matches? Did you have to wrestle differently to be able to do what you needed to do when your face was covered with the mask as opposed to wrestling just as yourself?
Well, I had been in the Charlotte territory for about 2 years and I was underneath, first, second, third match, but I was pretty much the best underneath talent there. And I was really, I don't know if you've seen my shoot interview, but, I'm not kin to nobody, man. I'm not nobody's brother, uncle, cousin. I'm a pretty fair-sized guy and I'm an athlete, but I didn't have a in, to get for somebody, but I mean, to take me and push me. But anyway, I stayed in Charlotte there a couple of years with Joel Deaton and was, I went over a few times in underneath matches, but, mostly got beat on TV and stuff. But I started getting a little bigger and a little better and it got noticed and Dusty called me in the office and told me he wanted to put me under a mask and, a full body suit. And I had put J.J. Dillon with me as my manager and it was a top manager, at that time. And then, Buddy Landale came in, with us. And, it was a good learning experience and it would have gotten over a lot, but I think it moderately got over, fairly well, but I think it could have really got over big time had there not been so much tons of talent up there in Charlotte. But basically, after they gave me, 15, 20 wins on TV with the Thunderfoot, then I went around putting over the top baby faces, which is fine with me, but I never liked wearing the mask. I just never liked wearing the mask. And, for some reason, because, wrestling, some people are built to have a mask. I mean, even handsome guys, they just look good in masks. But with wrestling and body language and facial expressions and is a big part of what we do. I mean, it's you can make people believe with facial expression. I mean, if you know what you're doing. But anyway, so that kind of took that away from me. So I had to try to change my style up some, but my value was always, I wasn't, no steroid head. I wasn't no muscle man. I was 6'4", 240, 245, natural. I didn't take steroids or anything like. Everybody used to always say, "Oh, Joel, man, you need to take it. Hey, pump up your feet." And I just, I just took what God gave me and ran with it. So it made me. I made more money, as Thunderfoot. I was booked, 22, 24 nights a month, whereas as Joel Deaton at that time, I was booked probably 16, 18 times a month. plus I was up further on the card making more money. So, and it gave me a little more experience working with, you know, top guys more. And, so I stayed there till 87 with that, gimmick and then met Baba at the Jim Crockett, Senior Memorial Tag Team Tournament in Baltimore. And Nelson Royal introduced me to Mr. Baba, and Baba gave me a booking date to come to Japan. And so when I went over there, they asked me to come back. I was one of 4 or 5 guys that was their first tour there, and I was the only one they asked back. So, and then that's where I stayed until went back into WCW in the early 90s for a little while. But go ahead.
Well, I was going to remind the fans they are listening to the Undisputed Wrestling Show here on the Angry Marks Podcast Network. You mentioned that you're all natural. You didn't take steroids or anything like that back in the Jim Crockett era like a lot of guys did. Unfortunately, we know that drugs were a big problem as far as the entire industry of wrestling is concerned back in that 80s and early 90s era. When you were actively involved at the time that it was going on, did you see a lot of problems with the drug issue going on in the locker rooms and with a lot of the talent?
I saw it all, man, of course. I mean, if you could, we were like rock stars, you put it like that. I mean, when in 84, 85, when they brought, they were already doing pretty good, but when they brought the Rock and Roll Express, and they went an hour in Shelby, North Carolina on TV, their first match in, and beat Ivan Koloff and Crusher Khrushchev for the world title belts, that popped the territory. I mean, it was already doing good, but that really popped it. And so, give me your question one more time. I get off in the phone here. What's the question?
All right. Were you really aware of the drug problems in the locker rooms at the time?
Yeah. I sound like a Marlon Dong. Can't even remember what you asked me, but yeah, man. I mean, there were people, and when we started going to the big towns and flying everywhere, we used to drive everywhere, 3,000-4,000 miles a week. But it was, around then. I mean, cocaine was a big thing back then, and I did my share. I smoked my weed a little bit. I didn't know nothing about pills or anything, but I didn't do them. But and I never bought any of that other. It was just there. And it's just such a tragedy what all's become of my friends and other people that I don't even know, loved ones or whatever, to die from the drug thing. But not only cocaine or pills or doctor scripts but steroid abuse, man. I mean, it was just, man, I used to look at guys sometime and think, oh Lord, man, they look like $1 million. I mean, they look great. And but I was telling somebody the other day, I said, somebody made a comment. I wore a mask one tour in Japan, and it was an American flag mask, kind of like the Patriots mask. I'm talking about, Dale Wilkes?
Yes, from Global.
And this was in like 88, okay, and I wore the mask for one tour, and Dale wasn't even the Patriot then. He didn't become the Patriot until like 91 or 90 or something, and so he commented a basic kind of comment about, you might have had the first Patriot mask over there, but but look at our bodies, you know, and mine was sculpted, you know, in a gym, and yours was sculpted with cigarettes and coffee. You know, hey, don't interrupt. Me and Dale, we love each other, but this is just a banner between us, and we, you know, we give each other hell all the time. We, you know, all us boys do this. So anyway, I said, yeah, that's, you know, you might be true, Dale. I might have passed by the gym door more times than I went in, and I said, but you and your sculpted body and all the other sculpted bodies in there, aided by gallons of juice, you know, seem to have all had countless surgeries because you overloaded your skeletal frames, not only built to hold so much, and when you jack up on them roids, it puts so much more strain on your joints, and then you're out there trying to wrestle, and so everyone I ever knew that was on steroids always had something pulled, something torn, something this, something that, something this, something that. So anyway, I just said, so I just said, well, I just took what God gave me and worked with it. And I said, I've had close to 7,000 matches. And as I'm putting out my cigarette and finishing my cup of coffee, I'm contemplating my strategies on my next match I got coming up.
Oh, fantastic.
But I mean, that was just a joke. I mean, that's what I told him, but it was kind of funny. I get you.
You were also active at the time that we lost Bruiser Brody down in Puerto Rico. Just as someone that was in the business in general at that time, what was the atmosphere like in locker rooms, and what was the mindset of a lot of the wrestlers when that tragedy happened to Bruiser Brody?
Well, as a matter of fact, I saw Frank like 2 weeks before that happened. We were working for Southern Championship Wrestling for Jerry Blackwell, which, by the way, had a ton of talent in there. And Jerry's a great guy, but and Bruiser Frank was in there, and hey, you know, he was a cardiovascular nut. I mean, you know, he'd do 1,000 squats with blink an eye, and he was in shape at 300-pounder, but he liked to smoke his pipe. You know, I mean, that's just his little vice, so fine. So, you know, I used to always get him a little bit, so the last time I saw him, you know, we went out and drank a little bit, and you know, got him what he wanted, and then he left with Puerto Rico, and I left him with Japan, and we got the news about it over in Japan. So it was, everybody was in shock, man. It was in shock.
Was there any concern from the crew that was in Japan with you about taking bookings in Puerto Rico at that point, or were they afraid of that not being an isolated incident at the time?
Oh, nobody was wanted to go there, and nobody did go there for a good while after that. Yeah, a lot. You know, Stan Hansen used to go a lot. You know, he never went again. There's a bunch of guys left. You know, when that happened, it was over there. You know, Tony Atlas and, you know, most all that crew, because hell, your life was in danger. You know, if they thought that you was going to do something to, you know, could get Fuckhead, whatever his name was, convicted for killing him. You know, so people were scared to go over there, and you know, and then I think they sent Tony Atlas court papers to be over there in court, you know, like 3 days after the day they had the court. So he, you know, he played it off as self-defense, like, you know, Frank had attacked him, but he got away with it. You know, took him in there and murdered him.
Well, you are listening to the Undisputed Wrestling Show on the Angry Marks Podcast Network. Mr. Deaton, at this time, I'm going to pass you over to my co-host, Will Huckabee.
What's up, Will?
I'm doing great. Once again, thank you for being a guest on the show. My first question is because, like Sean Guy told you, I'm based here in North Carolina, and I wrestle in the great state of Georgia quite often. And speaking of Southern Championship Wrestling, while you was there as a tag team with your tag team partner stuff, you had the opportunity to work against Georgia Power, which included the legendary Nightmare Ted Allen and stuff. And being a wrestler who wrestles in Georgia and stuff, Ted Allen's name pops up everywhere, and everybody talks so great about him. I had the opportunity to meet him once. I want to ask you, what was your opinion? How did you like working with Ted Allen and Barry Gordy and everybody else?
I liked, Ted ran his own show. He ran Rome out there. That was his town. He ran Rome, I think it was every 2 weeks. I don't think it was every week. I think it was every 2 weeks. But, I worked I'd say over 100 shows for Ted, Ted, he pinched a penny, but, you could get just about what you wanted, but he was a straight up a good guy, man. I mean, Ted was cool, man. Ted was all right. Ted was a good worker. Ted helped a lot of people. I always enjoyed going up there to Rome and playing, in wrestling and what did you say? You said something else about Southern Championship?
Yes, sir.
What did you ask me about it?
I would say, what was it like, working in Georgia in those days? Especially you had Georgia Championship Wrestling at one point, Jim Crockett Promotions and stuff, and then you had Southern Championship Wrestling there also. What was the atmosphere like working and wrestling in Georgia around that time?
Well, when I worked with Jerry, I had my Japan deal. I cut my Japan deal in '87, and that was my main thing until '96. So I worked a lot of independents, but Jerry, they had a little territory. I mean, we had, Jerry Blackwell, Dick Slater, Bob Fort Jr., Bruiser Brody, Abdullah, Dick Slater, Steve Lawler was in there. I know I'm leaving a bunch out because there was we drew pretty dang good around there, and we had our TV. We had a little TV, and I enjoyed it. It was something to do while I was home, and got to see some of those old guys, but other than that, I worked in Georgia for Lars, and then I worked in when we stayed with Lars about a year, and then finally he run out of money, so we went over and asked Ole, would he let us work? And, oh, sure. We were Lars's World League Wrestling was his group. We were World League Wrestling World Tag Team Champs, right? So Lars puts us out there. So we call Ole. He says, yeah, come on over. And Ole puts us out there against an 18-year-old Buff Sawyer and Ricky Fields is probably about 21 or 2. I think I was 21. Hosses was 23 or something, but Buzz was, full of piss and vinegar out of high school, big amateur wrestler, and Ricky could too. But what they didn't know was Hoss was a big, that time about 280, and he was a 2-time amateur heavyweight wrestling champion in Georgia. And so anyway, Ole told Buzz and Ricky to go out and eat us up. Don't give us nothing. Don't sell nothing. Because he wanted to take Lars's top guys and beat them with his little underneath team, or trying to give them a little mile push team, and so they, we got out there, and I guess all the vets in the back, they were all, they knew what was up. But anyway, so we got through the match, but once it was determined, we figured out pretty quick what was going on. We just okay, that's the way you want it. And so we big hoss, and we handled them. I got the tape somewhere. It's on my page, on my Facebook page. It's way back in '78. But anyway, long story short, so we got through the match, and then when we got back to the dressing room, what it did was gave us respect to the vets. And Wally McDaniel came up to me and said, "Listen, I'm fixing to take a book over in San Antonio for Joe Blanchard. I want you guys to come out and work for me." So that really got me my first real territory job there, and so I never came back in to actually work at the Georgia territory till I came back and I started working for Crockett in '83. Then we were in and out of it there all the time, so we did our TVs and stuff, you know, at TBS and station, and so I like, you know, Georgia's always a hot spot in wrestling, you know, especially give them a good product. You know, it's diehard wrestling fans, you know, good fans.
Now, I must admit that I'm younger than Sign Guy, but thanks to my father and stuff, who's a huge wrestling fan, I was introduced to you and Billy Black when I was about 11, 12 years old because of Smoky Mountain Wrestling. I want to predate that and ask you, how did that tag team come apart? You had been with Haas for so long, for so many years and stuff. How did you end up teaming with Billy Black and stuff and becoming the Wild Bunch?
Well, Haas had a couple of injuries, knee injuries, and he had been offered. He had a friend he went to school and college with that offered him a job with this union, and it was a cush, sweet job. You know, give you a car and a expense account and a good salary, and you know, and so he took it. Got out of wrestling for a while, and so that's when basically when I went to Crockett, and actually I brought David in up there in Crockett, but he didn't stay but about 3 or 4 months and left again. But I stayed, and so it was just me, you know. And then I was at an independent show around here in Georgia somewhere. I can't even tell you what town it was. And I watched. I didn't even know who Billy Black was. Never met him. Never saw him wrestle. Never nothing. But I watched his match, and I was thinking, damn. And I had been going to Japan for, let's see, I think I took Billy over there in '90. And my first tour in Japan was '87. So I've been going over there about three and a half years already, and had been partners with Hanson and Slater for 2 years, and so you know, Billy was doing moonsaults, spin kicks, and thrust kicks, and I mean, to look at him, you wouldn't think that much, but you know, when you see him in the ring, man, it's a whole different story. I mean, he did things the Japanese hadn't even thought of. I mean, he was the first guy to ever do a moonsault off the top turnbuckle onto the floor. And so anyway, you know, I came up and talked to him, and I asked him would he be interested in coming over to Japan and as my partner. And he said yeah. And so when I went back to Japan on my next tour, I talked to Baba-san, and Baba said yeah, that he would on my recommendation he would bring him over. And so he, you know, he did well. They liked him, and so that's how that happened.
You guys, like I said, you guys went to All Japan and won tournaments and won title gold and stuff, and debuted in Smoky Mountain, which is where I first seen you. But you also, Mr. Deaton, I have to say that we have a mutual friend. I'm assuming that he's your friend or associate. You guys went to NWA Georgia with Bill Behrens and company and stuff. And how was it working for Bill Behrens and NWA Georgia at that time?
Well, you know what? I mean, you could even listen. I've listened to that thing Bill said. So it's something about underrated wrestlers or something. And me and Billy were one of the teams that they mentioned. And Bill was, you know, I never had a cross word with Bill, and he even says that. You know, but for some, him and Billy did. I don't know if it was about a ring or about money, about something, but at the time that they had their big almost fight or whatever it was, I wasn't even on the show. You know, that night. No. And so, you know, they said Billy almost got arrested or did or something, but I wasn't even on the show. I didn't know nothing about that, you know, and Bill will tell you himself that that we've never, had a crossword really. Me and Billy had Billy stayed my partner in Japan about 3 years over there, and we were doing well, and we were over, and we were a mainstay. What I mean by that is we were getting, 15 to 18 to 20 weeks a year. They only run 26 weeks a year over there, so we were getting a lot of weeks, and so we were a regular. We were one of the regulars, and there's a lot of competition, man, over there. But one thing about Baba, he don't care who you are. I mean, he'll bring you in, give you a chance, top star from over here, or a son, or a brother, or an uncle, or whatever. And, he'll bring you in, but, if you can't hang, then, he won't ask you back, or they might let you come back every couple of years or something. But, Baba would let you be all you could be. He'd turn you loose. He would, going all out was expected, without, breaking bones and killing each other. I never was a tough guy or badass or nothing like that. I was an athlete, what I was, and I had the ability to go out there and wrestle with the first match or main event, and I could adapt my style of wrestling to about anybody's, and I could make the match work, whereas a lot of guys have contrasting styles, have shitty matches. And for some reason, I could always get a decent match out of, say, somebody else higher up than me could. And that's rare, and that's valuable in our business. And that's what helped keep me a job for, close to 30 years full time.
And see, I was going to ask about that, because, you started in the late 70s, and when you started, wrestling was still presented as a legitimate sport. And then through the 80s, the NWA was huge, and during the start of WrestleMania and stuff. And then in the 90s was when, the advent of ECW, and then WCW broke away from the NWA. But throughout all of that, you kept a steady job. And you, for the most part, just answered my question, because you said that you was able to work with anybody and have a good match, whether it was beginning, the turn jerking, as we like to call it, if it was main event. But mentally, how did you deal with the change, from wrestling in the 70s to all the way to the late 90s and stuff, when there was a lot more hardcore wrestling and stuff, and there was less of it actually being an art form?
Well, I just, I never was into that real hardcore stuff. Now, I believe there's more art and talent and smarts in telling a great story than beating yourself half to death with barbed wire wrapped around a bat, or having the ability to tell a story in about a 20 or 15, 20, 30 minute time period. You and one other guy with, 20, 30,000 people, and have them, up on their feet and sitting down, up and down, up and down. And, there's a gratification that comes from that. It's just, it's hard to explain, but, hardcore, a lot of people like it. I mean, they do some crazy stuff, but it's like Terry Funk said, me and him were watching some of the young boys over there in Japan, out wrestling around the ring before the matches, while they were being trained, and one of the kids did some kind of wild, crazy move off the top or something, and Terry looked up there at him and said, "Hey kid, come here." And the little Japanese kid looked at Terry, bowed, and Terry waved, yeah. And he called, I think, Cuppa or Tiger or somebody over there. He said, "Tiger, tell this guy what I'm fixing to say." And he said, "Okay." And Terry said, "Tell him that you only have so many of those moves in you. So make them count. And that's true because, you know, nowadays, wrestling's glorified acrobat, basically. And, you know, those guys do all that incredible stuff. I'm not saying it doesn't look good and it isn't hard to do, because I know it does. And it is hard to do, but, you know, you'd only have so many of those in you, and you're going to get hurt. You're going to get hurt. But the hardcore, man, you know, my idea of hardcore, I mean, I've had cage matches and you know, use chairs and kendo sticks and whips and, you know, stuff like that. But you know, never nothing like over the top type stuff that people don't even take an eye at now. I mean, if you don't take a bowie knife out there with you and, you know, slice somebody's fingers off, then, you know, people sit on their hands. I mean, what do you got to do to get a response? How can you top that? It's just different. I mean, wrestling is just different. It's different. The fans have been re-educated, and I guess that's what happens in everything. As you know, through life, everything changes. You know, different ways of doing things. But of course, you know, I liked our way. I liked the old way. I liked the fat and nasty. You know, there were a few, you know, guys with good bodies and worked out, and you know, but you know, when the steroid age came in, you know, that's all promoters wanted to see was those bodies out there, and some of those guys could work, but some of them were horrible. You know, so I don't know. I mean, I had stayed in Charlotte for, you know, 5 years in the hottest territory in the country. And so, you know, it was time for me to go. And I couldn't have went to a better place, the best promotion on the planet.
Well, Mr. D, once again for being on the show. I'm going to pass it back to Sign Guy. I know he has a couple last-minute questions, and he wants to get your social media info. So, Sign Guy, take it away, please.
Thank you, Huck.
Okay.
Mr. Deaton, before we let you go, I want to make sure you have time to let the fans know how they can get a hold of you. Do you have any social medias that you operate so fans can keep up with what you're doing?
Yeah, I have a Facebook page. It's under Joel L. Deaton Jones. Joel L. Deaton Jones. I still have, I don't know, from time to time I'll delete people that I don't have much to do with, but I think I got about 12 or 1,300. I got about 3,800 friends, so I got plenty, you know, which, you know, most of those are fans. I mean, I probably know about 500 or 600 out of those whole 3,800, but you know, I mean, and I just basically, you know, keep wrestling stuff on there and show you know, pictures that maybe people have never seen, because I took pictures everywhere I went, and there's a lot of neat, good stuff on my page now, I think, but yeah, that's really all I do. I don't got Twitter or any of those other ones. It's hard enough to me to figure out how to do Facebook, but I got a documentary coming out soon. Well, I say soon. Within the next 6 months or so, and it's going to tell you some things that some stories and things that nobody's ever heard, and it's going to come from a guy like me who was like the man in the middle. You know, you have all these top stars that tell their stories and how it was, and this. Well, not too many of them tell the stories about how we had it and about how we came up, and the ones that made it and the ones that didn't, and the stories behind it, and you know, the highs and lows, and it's going to be cutting edge. It's going to be something different. So if people keep an eye out, I'll let everybody know when that's ready. And, I even got a baseball game I pitched in over there in the Tokyo Dome, a charity game that hadn't been viewed in close to 30 years. That was a wrestling team. You know, Baba had his team, a movie star team, all Japanese, and couple of variety show teams, but it was a cool thing, man. They had a marching band, cheerleader, everything. I got it all on tape. I don't know why it ain't on YouTube and nobody has it, but they gave us a copy of the tape before we left that tour, and the TV that did that charity show wasn't the same one that did the wrestling for Baba, so I don't know if that's why I still have mine or nobody on Baba's side has any of them. I don't know, but it ain't been out there. Nobody's got one but me, and it's cool. I mean, you got Tiger Mask, Navala, when he still had the mask before he turned to Tiger Mask 2. You know, Kabuki, Rock and Roll Express was out there. Me, Jumbo, John Tenna was there. Kabashi, Ishikawa, Robert Gibson, Ricky. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool. You get to see about 3 innings. We played 5 inning games. You know, it's a charity deal, but it was cool.
That sounds very interesting. I'm definitely looking forward to that coming out. I will absolutely make sure I get a copy of that.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to do it and put it on Amazon or that other one or both, and where you can just download it for a couple of bucks, you know, and it'll be. Believe me, these are going to be stories that people don't hear. You know, you hear all, you know, all the big stars, their stories where, you know, this. You know, I've been under the I've had my share of the bright lights, but you know, it wasn't easy, but anyway, it's going to be funny. It's going to be serious. It's going to be a good thing, and I'm excited about it. So,
well, it has been our pleasure having you on the Undisputed Wrestling Show here on the Angry Marks Podcast Network. And definitely keep us up to date on the documentary. We'll have to bring it back when that gets released.
Okay, cool, man. And you know, I still got a ton of stories, you know, about matches in Japan or territory or anything. If y'all ever want to hear any more, hear me run my mouth anymore, you know, just give me a call. I don't mind doing these things. And you got my number. And thank you people out there for listening. You know, the Outlaw's still here. I just wrestled a couple months ago. I'll be 59 next month. Still in pretty good shape, if I must say so myself. And, but that was the first time in about a year. You know, wrestlers never retire. The time between bookings just gets longer. So,
absolutely.
But anyway, thanks, guys, and I appreciate y'all having me on. Y'all have a great night, and peace, love, and out.
All right. Thank you very much to the Outlaw Joel Deaton joining us here on the Undisputed Wrestling Show on the Angry Marks Podcast. Fans, if you're not familiar with Outlaw Joel Deaton, you need to jump on the YouTube and search him out. Phenomenal talent. He's been pretty much everywhere in the last 40 years, still plying his trade. Great talent, especially if you're a fan of Japanese wrestling. He was a very important gaijin in the 80s and 90s, so definitely seek out his work. Huck, that was a great interview. I think Drew and Zane are going to be kicking themselves for missing this.
Oh, yeah. Man, look, they're so mad that they missed this interview. They got a chance to speak with him, man. I can't wait to talk to them about next week and rub it in their faces.
Drew Skills on the island of Jamaica looking for Kofi Kingston, and he missed the Outlaw Joel Deaton. Well, Huck, how was your week? Did you have any shows this past week?
Oh, man, you talking about a busy weekend, man. Friday night, I was in East Bank, West Virginia, for Mega Championship Wrestling. Me and my buddy Joe Black went up to East Bank and stuff. Drove the 8 hours, man. Like Brutal Bob Evans said, man, with hashtag doing the drives. Had a really, really intense match against, Ring of Honor top prospect Jason Kincaid and his tag team partner and stuff, man, and ended up in a double disqualification. That was okay. You know, we're going to have a rematch for that pretty soon, I think. And then Saturday was a match I was super excited for. It was against the Rockwaller. He now calls himself the Rockwaller, C.W. Anderson, ECW original stuff, man. Had a match. It was the main event for WVCW's Miracle on the Mountain, which is their annual charity show for the Children's Miracle Network, which is a charity for cystic fibrosis and stuff, man. And if people watch my social media, they'll see the most amazing part of the entire match. Even though I won, even though I put CW through a table and stuff, and beat CW with a spine buster, which is, if anybody knows wrestling history, the Andersons are famous and known for two things, and that's a famous left hand and a spine buster. Past all of that was the fact that I got CW to dance with me in the ring, was great. It was the highlight of my wrestling career. And then Sunday did a really cool student show in Kernersville, North Carolina for USIWF. The guy that runs the school, the trainer, Josh Gary, is one of the best trainers in the East Coast. When you mention great trainers, you talk about Danny Cage and the Monster Factory. You talk about John Trosky over there at the Sanctuary. Q-Walk Carmichael, WWA 4, the Samoan Academy and stuff. And you have to start mentioning the USIWF because it's turned into, besides Hot Spots and George South, USIWF has turned out some tremendously great young talent and stuff. And so it was my pleasure to go out there and have a match with one of their students and stuff who actually cheated. You wouldn't believe this sign guy, but this rookie and stuff, this greenhorn, actually pulled one over on me, man. He was pulling the tights, and I had my foot underneath the ropes and stuff, and with both of those things going on, the referee didn't see it. So next month, they're having another one of their warehouse wars and stuff, man, and I'm definitely going to wrestle this kid again, man, and teach him some respect. So that was my weekend. How about you?
Well, first, you did not answer the most important question. Did you get your jersey back?
From Jason Kincaid? No, my West Virginia jersey did not make an appearance this weekend. So I had to bring out a new jersey for my road trips. One of my favorite jerseys in my collection, number 52 for the Baltimore Ravens. My Ray Lewis jersey. I had to rock that jersey this weekend, and Jason Kincaid was eyeballing this stuff, and I think he was trying to take another one of my jerseys on tour, but I guarded it with my life, man, and kept a close eye on it, so it actually made its way home back with me.
All right. Well, this past week, I was back at NWA Blue Collar. We had Chris Youngblood come in to challenge for the Pacific Northwest heavyweight title for the NWA. It appeared he was successful. I counted to 3, but then the senior official there at NWA Blue Collar, T-Rex, came out. He had seen Buddy Highway's leg outside of the ring. I didn't see it because I was at the shoulders. He ordered the match restarted. Buddy Highway then won the restarted match to remain the NWA Pacific Northwest heavyweight champion.
Hold on, guys. You need to tell me that Kevin Sullivan's favorite wrestler is not the senior referee at NWA Blue Collar?
T-Rex has more years, which makes him the senior official.
But being Kevin Sullivan's favorite referee doesn't count for something. That doesn't give you +5 power points or whatever it is that these kids do now.
Well, I just count them. I don't politic them. I just go out there when they shove me through the curtain and start counting.
Well, time guy, no matter what, man. Whenever I come out to the West Coast, you will always be my favorite senior referee. You'll always be my senior referee. How's that sound?
That sounds good, and I look forward to the next time you're out here. Hopefully you'll have your jersey back.
Oh, God. I don't know if that's going to happen, man. I don't know. I think by the time I get that jersey back, I'm just going to frame it because, that jersey's been in more countries than I have. It's been on bigger shows than I have. And it's way more over than I am, unfortunately. So I think I'm just going to frame it and retire it if I ever get it back.
If that jersey could talk, it'd probably have 1,000 stories, and we'd probably get a little bit more insight into the mind of the gift Jason Kincaid, because that's probably a really fascinating insight.
I don't want to know half the things that jersey has seen, actually.
I would shudder to think half the things that jersey has seen.
Exactly. I think most of the things they've seen had something to do with Jason Kincaid. So, yeah, it can keep the stories.
Well, Will, one of the things I wanted to ask you about, it happens to involve one of our local Pacific Northwest guys. Did you get a chance to see the spot that went viral coming off the Evolve 62 show that was on Friday night.
Oh my! If you're talking about that same crazy spot where the guy got thrown into like the post or something in the middle of the building, is that what you're talking about?
That is the one.
Bro, man, yeah, I've seen it. Trust me, I've seen it, and I didn't share it on Facebook or whatever on social media, but I definitely showed a couple of my friends in the locker rooms in the car. So yeah, I definitely saw that video.
I've been in the ring with the young man that was thrown several times. He does take a lot of chances in his matches. He does a lot of risky looking things. I've never seen him actually get seriously hurt, although he scared me on a number of occasions. But that looked just beyond risky. It looked really, really dangerous, not only for Darby, but also potentially could have injured a few fans. If he would have been off and landed on a fan, it could have definitely hurt someone pretty badly. What were your opinions on that spot, and not only the spot itself, but should that spot have been allowed to be done in the match? Should someone had said something to prevent that move from going that far?
Well, you know, at first, before I did my research and I asked around and stuff, I legitimately thought it was a shoot. You know, if you watch it, it looks like it was a shoot. Like the guy was just like, he got pissed off in the ring and picked the guy up and threw him. It legitimately, I thought it was a shoot. And then I did my research and found out that this was something that they talked about. With all the crazy stuff that happens in professional wrestling, Sign Guy, you really can't say that this spot is any more dangerous than Mick Foley being thrown off the top of the cage, or the Hell in a Cell, or Shane McMahon jumping off the Titantron, or Jeff Hardy doing a swanton off the Titantron. You know, there's always going to be dangerous moves like this in wrestling. In my opinion, do I think that they should have done it on a show like that? Yes and no. There's always that. You always want to show that there are things that you can do that somebody else can't do or refuses to do. I'm assuming that this, from hearing you talking to a couple of friends of ours, friends of mine in business and stuff, this young man, like you said, has been known to take several risks. I'm assuming that they're very calculated risks and stuff. And like Mick Foley said, he has a high tolerance for pain. So I would have, me myself, if I'd been in a locker room, I would have been hearing them go over this. I definitely would have voiced my concern. I definitely would have tried to persuade them to come up with something a lot safer. But at the end of the day, this gentleman's he's trying to advance his career. He's trying to get noticed. He's trying to become an actual regular member or a regular roster member of Evolve and stuff. And so I guess he felt like that spot was something that he had to do to not only get the powers that be's attention, but to get, his name out there and stuff. In my opinion, it's a shame that we as a society and wrestling as a whole has come to a part where a kid has to be thrown in what looks like, and obviously it wasn't, but in what looks like such a reckless manner to get a spot on a card. It's a damn shame that that the wrestling business has come to that. But if that's something that he wants to do, like I said, there's guys who take chair shots every night and they don't mind taking them. I don't necessarily agree with, hardcore matches or death matches, but there are guys like Masada and my buddy Brad Cash who do them on a weekly basis, and they just have a tolerance of pain like that, and that's their niche in professional wrestling. So kudos to him for taking that bump, because I definitely would have, but, hopefully that didn't take too many years, not only off of his wrestling career, but also his life.
I would like to point out that knowing Darby, I don't know the other gentleman personally, but I do know Darby. I've worked with him, like I said. He is extremely well trained from one of the most reputable trainers on the entire West Coast, Buddy Wayne. So I'm sure he was like doing it as safely as he could. I don't know about the other guy. I never met him, never worked with him, so I can't testify to that. But even though Darby scares me about every time I get into a ring with him, he does generally do things pretty safely, and he is extremely well trained. But still, I would not recommend that bump. And I told a young kid at NWA Blue Collar, I said, the first time you try Darby's spot, I'm going to catch you, walk you back down to the locker room, and sit you down and call the match, because I don't think it's needed. I think when you start throwing guys towards the crowd like that, and there's a chance that somebody could get hurt from a wrestler landing on their head like that, that's a whole different ballgame. Take away that Darby could have got hurt, because that's one thing, but when you're putting the fans at risk, I mean, you talk about Mick Foley and you talk about Shane McMahon, they weren't really putting the fans at risk when they did their spots. When you throw a guy to the crowd like that so hard, and when he came down, he was still in a position he could have easily landed on a couple of fans, and from that high up, it would have done a lot of damage, even as light as Darby is, so I don't think it was necessary in that particular match to throw him out like that, and especially not when there's no type of barricade to protect the fans from a wrestler landing on him.
Oh, yeah, you're definitely right, Fine Guy. I mean, and I'm not saying that Mick Foley or Shane McMahon, whoever else in WWE, was putting fans at risk. I'm just saying the quality of those spots, you know, the risk of those spots. There's always going to be guys who are going to take it above and beyond what the average professional wrestler is willing to do. My biggest question is, and my biggest concern is that in a situation like that, there's so many things that could have gone wrong. I'm assuming that part of the match happened, you know, in the middle, closer to the end of the match, you know, when guys are tired, you know, Evolve has all of these lights and production and stuff. So for people who don't know, excuse me, when you have that many lights, you have like a production like Evolve has, and you have those huge floodlights, it can get to be anywhere from 105 to 120 degrees in the ring. You know what I'm saying, Sign Guy? And in that kind of weather, you know, guys are sweating nonstop. And of course, you know, a lot of guys put on oil and stuff before the match, so guys are sweaty, they're slippery. Luckily, the guy landed, I was assuming he landed safe. I didn't see on any social media where the guy had to go to the hospital. He suffered any like career-ending injuries and stuff. But in a spot like that, there's so many things that can go wrong. You know, what if he landed, you know, the small of his back would have landed first? What if he had landed at an angle and landed head first? What if he had landed and broke a leg or twisted an ankle or broke his arm or whatever the case may be? You know, what if he had broke his collarbone? I don't feel like a risk like that. And let's just be honest, Evolve is not WWE. So unless you're getting your check signed by Vince or Dixie or even, you know, New Japan or something like that, it's not worth the payout that you're going to get. I'm sorry. Like, no payout on the Indies is worth getting that hurt.
Absolutely. Well, Huck, we have another great guest that is scheduled to be on tonight. Should we move towards giving Jock Samson a call here on the Undisputed Wrestling Show on the Angry Marks Podcast Network?
Works for me, Chad. You want to give him a call?
Please enjoy this Verizon ringback tone while your party is reached.
Hello?
Is this the one and only Jock Samson?
This is Jock Samson.
All right, Jock Samson. This is Will. Huckabee with the Undisputed Wrestling Show. How you doing, man?
Buddy, I'm doing pretty good, man. Just sitting here, actually for once getting to sit down here and just relax. I never get to do that very often, so.
Well, I had the last time when you was on the show, man, it was me, Zane, and Rick, I do believe. This time it's me, and we have a new host. You know, Rick is now the executive producer, so he's not on the show as often and stuff, but he always listens in. But now today it's me and Kevin Sullivan's favorite wrestler. He legitimately said that on this podcast a couple of weeks ago. This guy's his favorite referee, I'm sorry. Sign Guy. So, Sign Guy, say hello to Jock Samson.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Samson, for being here tonight. And one of my first questions for you, I know you work in the Ohio area quite a bit, and you have also gone up north into Canada to ply your trade. Could you give us a little bit of your opinion on the differences between the Midwest United States fans and the Canadian wrestling fans?
Well, the part of Canada that I've been at has been Toronto, so it's been real cityfied. If you catch my drift here, the difference between the Midwest and Canada is in the Midwest you will have promotions where there's a lot of spots, a lot of high spots, but then maybe 2 towns over you got old school wrestling fans. So there's a little bit more variety here in the Midwest, I would say, than what I've seen. A little bit, I've been up there 3-4 times, and the crowds up there seem to want a little bit more faster paced action. Even though when I go up there, I don't do anything more than I have to. So I don't change anything that I do, but, they just seem a little different in that. And the fact is that, in the Midwest, you have a lot more country people, and I didn't meet any damn country people in Toronto. So, but very good wrestlers on both sides. I mean, shit, Ohio and Canada, how I've been to the point where I see a lot of the Canadian dudes in Ohio quite a bit up at AIW and whatnot. So, a lot of talent around.
Wrestling up there in Toronto, do you have a lot of problems with the fans that may not like the American wrestlers coming up there so much? Do you run into angry fans that are not so much angry at you as a wrestler, but more angry that you're an American?
Oh, well, I look at wrestling as, as it used to be back in the old days. I'm not, when I go to Canada, there's, like you said, there's nothing changing me per se. Like, I am, a redneck, and everyone, there's not many rednecks in wrestling anymore. And I'm legitimately a redneck, and that's at least what everyone else calls me. I live in the country, I still have pickup trucks and all that. So when I go up there, there's always perception about me and also Americans that you will see. And the fans seem a little bit more calmer up there. It's not like when I wrestle down in West Virginia where you actually have to worry about your well-being sometimes when you're here. The fans will come at, and that's the truth. I can actually tell you how many fans that I've had to hit to defend myself. I'm in my 22, and half of them's in damn West Virginia. So I don't think I'm gonna get that up in Toronto. A lot of wrestling fans today know it is what it is, and they are not going to. They go to a wrestling show to see a show. Not like back in the day, it was wrestling matches, so they just want to see a whole big show. So, I don't get that. I had a few people yell some stuff at me, but, when you see them on the street, they bitch out. So, and I will challenge fans that want to try me. So.
Well, you talked about the high spots that a lot of guys do, and Will and I were talking just a little bit ago about the spot from the Evolve show where a young kid was thrown into a post that was holding the ceiling up out on the floor from the middle of the ring. We've seen the CZW stuff where the guy went through tubes into the bed of a truck from the roof of a building. A lot of dangerous stuff has been seen just in the last few weeks. What's your opinion on this really hardcore style that looks like it's trying to make its way back into vogue in professional wrestling?
Well, first off, my opinion on hardcore wrestling is better than me. I won't, I try to get by on personality and charisma, but there's occasionally when I will get stupid and do something that's against my better judgment. you know. But I look at it, as you say, you know, in America, we have many different cultures, many different, there's so many, it's a really diverse place. You know, there's how many different types of music, and everyone likes something. You know what I mean? Like, I could get in a car ride with 6 or 7 fellas, and we all like 7 different types of music, you know. So I feel like if there's a group of people that would like to see it, then yeah, it is what it is. I mean, people going to buy tickets to see it, then they're always going to have it. So really, it's not my cup of tea, even though occasionally I will get, you know, do some stuff, because I do have a Texas death match, July 23rd, Cleveland AIW for Absolution versus Dick Justice, you know, where we're going to have barbed wire boards and stuff like that. So, and it's the end of our feud. So I kind of look at hardcore wrestling for me personally as the ends of a mean, you know, means to an end. So to each their own, I guess, right?
Very true. It's kind of like the circus where you have something to appeal to everybody's taste and interest, I think.
Yeah, there's, you know, wrestling today, there's something for everybody on every show. You got high flyers, you got old lazy motherfuckers like me who just soon just get over without wrestling. You know, then you got tag team wrestling. You got something for everybody.
You brought up AIW, and that seems to be a promotion a lot of people are looking at out of Cleveland. A lot of really outstanding talent has passed through the doors there at AIW. People like Gregory Iron and Veda Scott are regulars. You have Colt Cabanas coming in. You've had even Dennis Stamp getting a booking after all these years there at AIW. What's your opinion on AIW, and what do you think that they've been doing right to be getting such a buzz among wrestling fans?
Well, you know, it was like I said earlier about, you know, about having something for everybody. AIW is a different place, because I remember the first time I showed up at AIW, because I was trained in West Virginia, man, and you're taught, hey, if you don't call stuff in the back, you call it in the ring, you know, and that's how I've always went about my business for years. And then they booked me up there at AIW because they liked the way I had these rodeo clown boots that George South would wear a lot of times, and they liked the way they looked. So that's pretty much how I got booked up there in the first place, because I had cool looking cowboy wrestling boots. So, and but the stuff that goes on at AIW, man, is you got some of the most athletic, tough, you know, individuals that you will ever find in wrestling. You know, you have guys like Ethan Page, who, you know, I've known for years, and now just completely taken off. Like you said, he's wrestling down in Evolve. Josh Alexander's back. Dick Justice, who I think's a piece of shit, he's up there. They got me managed by the Colonel Robert Parker. I mean, you got to be fucking kidding me. How fucking cool is that? AIW, they're doing whatever they can to grab every fan in the building and give every fan what they want. You know, there's 5 or 6 people that want to see old school wrestling, and then there's 5 or 6 people want to see, you know, hardcore, high flying stuff. But the way AIW has grabbed people is just, they're not afraid to go out and do something. Like, they brought in Missy Hyatt. You know, they had a wedding with Missy Hyatt and Dick Justice, and me and the Colonel Parker got involved, and I had a match with Bunkhouse Buck as my tag team partner. You know, to me, you know, growing up, I was a huge Bunkhouse Buck fan. I said I'd never thought that would ever happen, because I was a big fan of Jimmy Golden when that's what his name was back in Mississippi and Memphis and whatnot. And then I get to be a tag team partner. That's a little bit nostalgic, you know. And then you got the new fans who may not have ever heard of them. They're going to look them up, and they're going to find out how fucking awesome Bunkhouse Buck and the Colonel are, you know. And they're basically giving fans a history lesson, you know, throughout the years. And I've been very fortunate to be in the ring up there with several great guys like Tracy Smothers, who I think is the greatest independent wrestler in the world, because he don't do jack shit and it's over, you know. So there's a little something for everybody. They have a lot of press. Colt Cabana has a lot to do with that. I know Colt, they're really big on Colt Cabana up there, and they should be, because he does a lot for them. So, you know, Cleveland is, from, you know, what everyone tells me, that Cleveland is the new Philadelphia. So I hope I answered that without confusing people and rattling on. So
I understood every word. Well, we are talking to Jock Samson here on the Undisputed Wrestling Show on the Angry Mark Podcast Network. And Mr. Samson, you referenced getting your start in West Virginia. One of my favorites, and someone that Will Huckabee knows extremely well, is also out of West Virginia. He still wrestles there quite a bit, but he recently has been working with Ring of Honor, finally getting a shot with the national company after quite some time having fans almost begging the promotions to sign him. That is Jason the Gift Kincaid. What are your thoughts on him as he's just now getting the chance there at Ring of Honor?
Well, Jason Kincaid, I remember the first time I ever met Jason Kincaid, it was about 11 years ago. We were in Rand, West Virginia, which is the hometown of future NFL Hall of Famer Randy Moss. In this little small building. And I remember it very well because there was a lot of beer in the locker room, and we were all watching Kentucky basketball. I looked over and I said, "Hey, my buddy, who's that kid with that little quiet guy over in the corner?" You know, and they said, "That's Jason Kincaid." And I was trained by a guy named Brian Logan, and Logan was like, "Kincaid could be the best guy in this place." And the next thing I knew, Jason Kincaid had a beard longer than mine and is doing things that I've never seen anybody do. I mean, for one, you know, to be honest with you, it's very hard to get noticed in the state of West Virginia because there's a big stigma about the state of West Virginia. And there's quite a bit of very good wrestlers that come out of West Virginia, like Chance Prophet, you know. And I'm not a West Virginian, but I always get considered to be a West Virginian. I'm a Buckeye. So, but it's very hard because as much good as there is in West Virginia, there's a lot of bad wrestling in West Virginia, and it's got a little stigma. So it took Jason a little bit longer than it probably should have. So I'm very happy for the guy. He's a super great guy. He's probably one of the best, most athletic, intuitive individuals that I've probably ever met. So I'm very happy for him. He deserves it.
Well, at this point, I'm going to pass things over to my co-host, the Morning Star, the incredible Huck, Will Huckabee.
Hey, what's been going on with you, Jock?
Oh, buddy, I don't know, man. I've been drinking a shit ton of beer, and you know, I've been on the Ohio River quite a bit here. I took 3 weeks off from wrestling just so, because, you know, I've just been beat the hell up, and I was talking to my wife the other day. I was like, I don't do jack shit in a wrestling ring, and I'm sore. I can imagine how this new generation of wrestlers are going to feel when they get 40.
Oh, yeah. Well, look, man, my first thing is, you know, last time we talked to you, the last time I saw you in West Virginia, over there in Savage, in West Virginia, you know, over there in Merrimack, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You was a singles wrestler, man, and now, you know, I'm checking you out on social media and everything, man, and, you know, what's this whole Mega Pliers thing, man? First of all, I asked about the Mega Pliers, or Mega Flowers, I'm sorry.
You wanted to, the Mega Flowers. Well, a fella named Chris, what's that?
I'm about to say, how did that come about, man? You're a tag team wrestler now.
Well, you know, I'm 36 years old, you know, and, you know how the old adage, the hangovers hurt more than they used to. And the bumps also do, you know, the older you get. But I've always wanted, when I came in as a tag team wrestler when I started out wrestling 11 years ago, you know, and I've always liked it. You know, there was just something about it. There's all this psychology that you can do. There's all this different stuff that you can do that you can't do as a singles wrestler. You know, and there's a fella who lives about 30 miles from me in Athens, because I actually grew up in Athens County, Ohio, and he happens to live there now, and I happen to live where he lived, where he grew up. So it's kind of crisscross. So, but named Chris Kahn, and he threw this idea at me. He said, "Hey, I'm getting back into shape again." He took a few years off from wrestling. I want to get back into it. I want to tag up with you, you know. And at first I was a little skeptical when the more and more me and him talked, we realized that we had the same ideology about the business itself. I said, let's give it a shot. And to be honest, it's really starting to take off. And we've, with our promos, because he's got a great personality, and we blend well promo-wise, because I'll just be a dumb shit and just rattle, and he'll say some funny, clever things. And for some reason, it's like a train wreck that works. And we got a finisher. We decided, since the Young Bucks named something after Bill Meltzer, we named our finisher after Bill Apter. We call it the Apter Drop. So, and the whole name of the mega, yeah, I know. We're trying to get that rub, that Bill Apter rub. And we decided we named the Mega Pliers because I got into wrestling. I started getting more bookings because some of the guys caught me banging a rat behind a dumpster. And this is true story. True fucking story. And everyone always gets a kick out of it because I'm always talking about banging rats, Before I was married, that's all I fucking did. These guys come behind it. They said, well, I've got to be a carny, 24/7. Well, these guys came around. They were looking for me. It was Matt Mason, a guy named Jeremy Mandrox. Said, where's Jock? And he's probably behind there fucking some rat behind a dumpster. And they walk around the corner, and I just happened to be fucking a rat behind a dumpster, and they were yelling my name, and I stuck my head up like one of them little groundhogs you get at Chuck E. Cheese that you got to beat down. Popped it up. Hey, guys, I'll be out in a second. Did my stuff, walked out. They popped. And then they see the girl. I feel bad for her, though. Think about it. She had that, walk of shame, and I didn't give a fuck. It all started because of that, because I'm always talking about banging rats, about promos. And shit, I've been married for 6 years, so, that's out the drain. So I'm still reliving in the past. So, and that's pretty much where the gimmick is. He's the immoral Chris Kahn, and I'm Gigolo Jock Samson.
Jesus. Well, and here's one thing I'm going to ask you, man, because as you've seen of late, man, tag team wrestling is making a huge comeback. Some of the most popular acts, or I guess you would say, I'm going to say acts. The hell with it, who cares? Some of the more popular acts and stuff, and every wrestling company are the tag teams. You have the Young Bucks in New Japan. You have not only the New Day, but now you have Enzo and Cass in WWE. You have the Revival in NXT. You have the Briscoes in ROH. You have the Wolves in TNA. I mean, tag teams are making a huge resurgence and stuff in professional wrestling. In your opinion, what do you feel is the reason for the sudden influence in tag teams?
To be honest, man, it's hard to say because for years WWE got away from it, and by getting away from it, it kind of killed it. It kind of killed, the tag team wrestling, not all the way, but really put a big dent into it, and I think there's a lot of really talented guys out there in wrestling, that are, lack one thing or another. And then if let's just try to help you here. Everyone knows the band Cheap Trick. Cheap Trick, musically, talently, is not the best, musically. They're not great individually, but you put them all together, they're a fucking rock and roll Hall of Fame band. You take a couple guys that lack something of another, you put them in, and then the next thing you know, they're playing beautiful music together. So WWE might be looking at it like, hey, we, got all these really fucking talented guys, and let's put some guys together and see what kind of music we can make. And sometimes if people are just born with it, like the Young Bucks or Brothers, it's going to work. If it don't, there's something wrong there. But I just think fans want to see something different. They want to see.
Speaking of something different, I hate to interrupt you.
All right.
Coming up very soon, I want to say this weekend, it's something that's probably, in my opinion, is probably going to be one of the craziest tag team matches ever seen on any card. You guys, the Mega Flowers versus the Heat Seekers, the former NWA World Tag Team Champs, Sigmund and Elliot Russell and stuff, who I've known for years now. You guys are facing each other. That's got to be probably going to be one of the craziest matches that they're ever going to be seeing.
Well, you're 100% right. It's going to be nuts. I've known Sigmund. I've met those guys a few times, and all I think I know is I hear good things about them, in the ring. you can't go wrong when Ricky Morton puts you over, put a good word in for you. So you're pretty solid if Ricky Morton's saying you're good. I was having a big talk with Chance Prophet this week, earlier this week, and he was telling me about him, and I'm telling you, man, the match is going to be completely off the chain. It's going to be a lot of action. There's going to be a lot of crowd reaction. And if you're lucky, I might make someone's wife moist just by seeing me in my leotard and shaking my thing. So it's going to be a little something for everybody. When Jock puts on the spandex, the divorce rate rises.
I've seen it firsthand, man. I've seen it. Like, you went to West Virginia, man, and Jesus, there was women leaving their husbands right there in the building. Jesus Christ.
I said, is it flooding in here? I said, no, the women are excited.
Speaking of, groups and stables and stuff, man, I gotta ask, I need a t-shirt, man, the 450 boys. I need me a t-shirt, man. What's the whole story behind that, too?
Well, it's really nothing special. I love the party. The 450 boys thing started just because for some reason we all started getting, and me and the Scarboni brothers from up in Detroit, who are a phenomenal fucking tag team. If anyone's never seen them, you need to get on YouTube, try to find as much shit as you can on them. They are fucking amazing. But you got the Scarbonis, you got Danny Shea, and then you got Vinny from Jersey, the manager of the Scarbonis. And we have a habit of, I guess we've been called a clique before because we like to go party together. And we party fucking till sometimes daylight. But for a while, for a stretch, we were getting in like 4:50 a.m. We'd look at the clock and it'd say 4:50 a.m. So we just started joking around, hey, we're the 450 boys.
Yeah, I'm about to say that.
And we kind of liked it.
I'm about to say, man, because when you look at y'all as a group and stuff, I hate to be that guy, but it's like one person doesn't fit in with the rest of them. You know what I'm saying? So I had to figure out where you fit in. Because I'm a huge fan of the Scarboni brothers. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, they're amazing. I'm surprised that they're not all over the country. They're one of those tag teams that can work with anybody and make anybody look way better than what they are. So of course,
they don't get enough credit for being great because they don't do a lot of. They're not as flashy. They're storytellers.
Exactly. But I've seen the picture of all of y'all together. I was like, how in the hell does Jock fit in with these guys? Like, this has to be something outside of the wrestling ring, which is why they're all together.
We're all coming together. I mean, like those guys are the guys that I'm probably the closest to in the wrestling business of all people. Because I'm always making fun of the Scarbonis because they're Italian. Vinny from Jersey, he's Italian. Danny Shea, I don't know what the fuck he is. But we always have a thing of making fun of each other, but because we're all in a group message together. So, I mean, every single day, I could go take a shit, leave my phone there, and then come back, and I got 56 missed messages, and it's all of us just talking shit. Like we're talking NBA finals and, making fun of each other, calling each other pussies, and just having a great time. Like, we're going to Vegas next year. All of us are.
Oh,
for the Cauliflower Alley Club. So we're already getting saving our money up just to go out there and get $20 all you can drink. This one bar out there they've been telling me about, so I need to hit that up. But those are some of the best guys I've ever had. We're actually getting 450 tattoos, all of us. So we're as close. We've been called a clique. So and not favorably by a certain promoter. So we've been called a clique. Even though everyone on the roster parties with us.
I don't think that Vegas is ready for the Appalachian Outlaw, man. Did somebody going to call in here and notify, Las Vegas PD and stuff?
Shit, man. I hope I make it 2 days out there. Let's just put it that way. I hope I don't get arrested because I might be out of fucking control. You tell me there's you pay $20 all you can drink. Jesus, fuck. Do you want to lose money?
Oh, yeah.
Shit, they're going to lose their ass.
Now, one more thing before I get you the rest of your info and stuff, man. You got a lot of big matches. We already mentioned, the Mega Plowers versus the Heat Seekers. But in October, you have a super huge match coming up on October 1st.
Yeah.
Please tell our fans and listeners about that, man. I got to let you plug it.
Well, it's for Remix Pro Wrestling, October 1st, Marietta, Ohio, Marietta Middle School. It is the Mega Plowers, Chris Kahn and myself, are taking on my arch nemesis, probably the greatest feud that I've ever had in wrestling. A guy named Marion Fontaine, and you know a lot about everyone. You know the handlebar haberdasher, whatever. Fantastic wrestling talent. Calls a favor in to bring in Damian Sandow as his tag team partner. So if you can't get excited for the Plowers and Fontaine and Sandow, you don't have a fucking soul.
You're right about that. Now,
I'm talking about it right now. I'm getting hard as a fucking, my dick is getting hard as a fucking rock tower.
I will say, man, to Marion Fontaine's credit, he sent me a pretty awesome Christmas card last year, man. I have to say, you know.
You got that too, huh? You got that too, huh?
Yeah, I got my Marion Fontaine Christmas card, man. My wife was like, who the hell is this? And I said, oh, that's Marion Fontaine. And I had to go on YouTube and go to Facebook and show who he was. Why the hell is he sending you a Christmas card? He's just that kind of guy. I don't know.
You know, I think he enjoys it a little too much. Like, you know, a lot of people would like me and him get along really well, and we're two polar opposite fucking people. Like, let's just put it this way. I'm Trump, he's Bernie Sanders.
Oh.
If that tells you how different me and him are. You know, like, our politics are completely different. You know, our music's completely different, because I just want to listen to country music all the time, and, you know, old country and classic rock, and I think he wants some, I can't even fucking remember the bands he fucking likes. Probably jazz. But, yeah, we get along pretty good, man. He lives up in Columbus.
Are you nervous about, you know, facing Fontaine and Damian Sandow, man? Are you drinking more beer? Are you drinking less beer? Are you hitting the treadmill more? What's doing, man?
Brother, believe it or not, I drink a lot of fucking beer, but I'm not nervous about it.
I know.
I drink a beer a lot. But it's just, you know, I've been blessed to have worked a lot of people in I've got over 1,000 matches, you know, and a lot of them have been against, like, legends that know what the fuck they're doing, and a lot of them expect you to call a lot in the ring. Like, I've worked Ricky Morton, and no, I was actually not really nervous him. I worked Manny Fernandez once, and I was nervous as fuck there, because I'm thinking, he's going to kick my fucking ass. Yeah. I've heard the stories about Manny Fernandez. So we're on a show. I'll tell you the story. This is why I don't get nervous in shows anymore. We're on a show in Kingwood, West Virginia, and you know Shane Taylor? He's from Ohio, but he lives in Texas now. He's at Booker T's company. I think he's Booker T's company.
I know Big Shane Taylor. He's working over there at Ring of Honor now, man.
Yeah. Great guy. And we're tagging up against him, Manny Fernandez, and Ron Bass. And there is a couple. It was a weird show because the first half of the show in West Virginia was Chikara, and the second half was like West Virginia, like old school workers, which kind of was weird as fuck. And Manny Fernandez looked out the curtain, and he saw this Chikara act, and I ain't going to call him out because I don't have any problem with anybody. But he didn't like what the act looked like, and he was ready to go kick the fuck out of him. I'm looking at Shane Taylor like, we're going to get fucking killed tonight. He's going to fucking beat our ass because he's mad at them. So we go out there and have a great match, and he was gentle with me. He was nice and polite. You know what I mean? And it turned out pretty well. So after that, I feel like if I can handle, you know, a day with Manny Fernandez, I'm not really worried about a whole lot. But I do drink a lot of beer, and that's why I'm fat. So I don't do much cardio. I do a lot of cardio. I run bleachers. I actually do sprints, but I do a lot of stair work. But I'm just fat because I eat like shit.
That's two of us. Don't feel bad. I would tell people I'd have a six-pack if it wasn't for honey buns.
Oh, man. Beer's my biggest problem. If I cut beer out, I'd probably slim the fuck down. But you know what? Fuck it. I like beer.
I'm saying, Arn Anderson never had a six-pack. Who cares?
Yeah, he kicked a lot of ass, too.
Well, hey, Jock, before I let you go, man, once again, thanks for being the guest of the show. Go ahead and give all our listeners and fans and stuff all your social media so they can keep up with the Appalachian Outlaw and the 450 boys.
Well, if you want to give us a holler, look me up on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. It's all under Jock Samson. You just do whatever the fucking beginning of that shit does. I'm terrible at social internet and technology, but you just type in Jock Samson, JockSamson. Everyone always puts a P in Samson. There's no P in there. And then you need to look up the Mega Plowers. I think it's the Mega Plowers after, on Instagram, not Instagram, but on Twitter and Facebook. And the 450 Boys, I don't run that website, so I believe it's under, just type in the 450 Boys. They got that fucking search gimmick up there. I don't run that shit. Like, I really don't even run the Mega Plower site, so I'm struggling. Like, I can only remember mine because I had to make it the same for all of it so I'd never forget it. Because I'm shitty with passwords, I'm shitty with technology, I'm shitty with all that shit. So.
Well, look, man. Well, once again, man, thank you for being a guest in the show, man. I enjoyed it. I know Sign Guy enjoyed it, man. Good luck this weekend. When you see Elliot Russell and Sigmund and stuff, tell my Seb what's up, all right?
I certainly will, man. Hope to see you soon, buddy.
You too, man. Bye-bye.
Thank you later. Bye-bye.
Sign Guy, what do you think about Jock Samson?
That was very good. Sounds like he's going to have a pretty great Texas death match coming up.
Man, this guy is such and Zane could tell you just as well as I can, man, this guy is such a pleasure to be around. Before we get off the air, man, we talked about the huge spot down there on the Pacific Coast. But we didn't talk about something else that legitimately trended worldwide yesterday throughout the entire world, and that was Zach Gowen's appearance on American Ninja.
Yes. Have you ever worked with Zach Gowen before, Huck?
No, I've never worked with Zach Gowen before, not at all. Hopefully I will the next couple months, though. I have been on a show with him. He's an outstanding person. Very, very nice. Had a lot of issues in his life. He's overcome them, turned his life around. Very inspirational. Not only because of the disability and overcoming that, but he had, like I said, a lot of personal issues that he had to overcome, get his life straight, was able to do so, and is very humble, very positive now. So that was great that he was able to do that. Did you actually get a chance to watch it, or was you too busy watching Raw? I was actually watching Raw. I came in on Raw like a half hour into it even, so I didn't get a chance to catch it, but I'm going to YouTube that to see exactly how it went. It went really good. I'm not going to, since you haven't seen it, I'm not going to ruin it for you. I don't know why people were amazed that he did as well as he did. I mean, he's an athlete, the guy who wrestled against Brock Lesnar and stuff, man, and was an OVW. Whether or not, I don't care what people say, Vince signed the wrong one-legged guy. Who gives a shit? This guy actually made it to his show. He did the best with what he was given. He did the best with what he was given and what they gave him and stuff, man. And I don't care if you have one leg or two legs. Being in the ring with Brock Lesnar is no laughing matter and stuff, man. So, he did very, I'm going to put it like this, he did very, very well for his performance for American Ninja. Absolutely. I believe Gregory Iron was there cheering him on. You could see Gregory Iron in the crowd supporting his tag team partner. So that was nice that Greg was able to make it out there as well and cheer on his partner. Yeah, he actually, he was definitely in the crowd. They actually gave him a lot of national TV time also. So that was really cool to see that Gregory Iron was there also, man. The handicapped heroes made their debut in American Ninja Warrior. That was pretty sweet. Absolutely. I've also worked a few shows with Gregory Iron, another very nice guy. Great to see them get that kind of national exposure. Hopefully it will lead to more opportunities for the two of them since they've gotten this national exposure. Oh, yeah, definitely. So before we get out of here, what you got going on this weekend, Sign Guy? This week, on Turnbuckle Turmoil, we are doing Rookie Day. We have a group of young rookies just getting their start, and we're going to talk to the rookies, see how the wrestling business looks to them through their eyes, and then I am going to beeline it down to NWA Blue Collar Wrestling and count a few pinfalls, check for a few submissions in Portland. Anything special going on Total Divas or Total Dudes? Total Dudes. Tomorrow night, Rex and I have as our special guest
one of my favorite people, Bad Boy Brad Lehman. He is not currently active in the professional wrestling business. Taken a bit of a hiatus, but he's been around for quite some time. He is a decorated war hero legitimately when he was in the Marine Corps, a Purple Heart recipient. And he's going to be joining myself and Rex, and we're going to be covering a particularly interesting episode of Total Divas.
All right. Well, as for myself, I have a huge busy weekend. Sorry, God, once again. Friday night being Hubert, North Carolina for Premier Wrestling Federation, which is the company owned by Steve Corino. Once again, it's an awesome show. This month, the feature match, I guess you could say, is Timmy Lou Retton, professional wrestler, wrestling's only professional gymnast, I guess you could say, is taking on Ring of Honor star Delirious, which is pretty awesome. They're also going to have Cheeseburger, Jushin Liger's favorite American wrestler, Cheeseburger is making an appearance, myself, Joe Black. And then Saturday morning, I'm doing a seminar with Delirious. Hopefully this will lead to, yours truly being a member of the Top Prospect Tournament in 2017. Let's keep our fingers crossed. Saturday night, me and Joe are defending our NWA Mid-Atlantic Tag Team titles and stuff in Williamston, North Carolina at NWA Mid-Atlantic. And then Sunday, we're heading back to Atlanta for AWE, where they have the Bill and Stan's Excellent Tag Team Tournament. Our first round, I don't know who we're facing throughout the rest of the tournament, but I know our first round tournament match is me and Joe, which is, we're known as the Sign of Fury, versus Team IOU, the former Undisputed Wrestling show guest, Team IOU, Nick, Iggy, and Kerry Awful, versus Wrestling's cutest tag team, Joey Line and Candice LeRae. So I'm super excited about that. Hopefully we'll beat them two and then go to the semifinals and stuff and then end up being AWE's first tag team champion. So that's what I got this weekend.
Sounds like a full weekend. Tell Kerry Awful that Sinai Sizes Hizello. He'll know what it means.
Oh, of course he'll know what it means. I don't know if you want to talk to him. I'm not a huge fan of Kerry Awful right now. Matter of fact, I'm not a fan of his at all. But I'll tell him you said his hello while punching him in the face. How's that sound?
Well, as long as the message gets relayed, that's fine.
Okay, that works. Chad, what do we got coming up on the Angry Marks podcast or the Angry Marks channel this week? Anything special?
Well, as always, tomorrow night we'll have a new episode of Glove Up or Shut Up with Stevie J and Peter H. Thursday night, AMP, this coming Thursday, we'll have Stevie J and the Great Sudoku, and hopefully the return of Abby. She's been out the last couple of weeks, not feeling very well, so hopefully she's back with us, and we'll get caught up with all the latest in professional wrestling news and interviews and all that's going on, and a lot of that may center on tonight's breaking news. While we were on the air tonight, TNA Impact Wrestling was not.
Wow.
Technical glitches with Pop TV for the debut of their live broadcast completely shit the bed.
No! You think this has something to do with the rumors saying that Summerversary almost didn't happen?
Well, I haven't read that yet, and I'm sure that we're going to talk about that, but apparently, Pop TV has been plagued with glitches all night long, did nothing but run advertising for like the first 90 minutes, and then like the last half hour, it's just been the color barcode test screen.
Ooh, that is bad. That's not a good sign.
TNA has taken to social media to kind of take Pop TV to task for that a little bit, and Pop TV says that as soon as they get as soon as the live broadcast taping is done for TNA and Pop TV gets that feed back into their offices, they are going to be rebroadcasting that from the beginning.
So you're saying I would be fine on the West Coast watching from the beginning?
You might be.
I might be luckier than the poor people at the Impact Implosion.
Yep, they once again sidelined. So no episode of Impact Implosion this week. Well, I think if we get to do a show next week, that's going to end up being like a triple header. No, it's going to be quadruple header because there's going to be 3 weeks of TV to talk about and Slammiversary.
Oh man.
Damn, that's gonna be like an hour-long show. That might be a 90-minute show, and that's unusual for them. Usually they're done in 20, 30 minutes.
Well, it's TNA.
But hey, we'll also have some New Japan wrestling to talk about, I'm sure. On Thursday night, we will have the return of Jordan Garber with Jordan Garber's Corner. We'll get caught up with what Jordan is doing up in the great states in Canada. I think he was briefly on a tour of the U.S. along with CWE this week, so we'll get caught up with him on that as well. Friday night, we've got Over the Top Radio with Ed in San Antonio, and all of his friends covering just whatever Ed wants to cover. So that's pretty much the network for the week.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Saga, you want to go ahead and take us out of here?
Absolutely. It was a great show, I think. 2 great guests. Huck, Killer Kev, I will talk to you next week. I believe Drew Skills will be back from looking for Kofi Kingston in Jamaica. Hopefully Zane Paisley will be off the road hosting the Nitro Live parties to join us. You are listening to the Undisputed Wrestling Show on the Angry Mark Podcast Network.